The Pittsburgh Steelers have been linked to Kenny Pickett. Mel Kiper Jr.'s mock draft, whatever, came out
40.
40. Kenny Pickett slides to 20. Pittsburgh Steelers can't pass him up. That's literally his reason is the Pittsburgh Steelers cannot pass up Kenny Pickett if he slides to 20. I don't know. I think there's a part of me that says the Pittsburgh Steelers could pass up on Kenny Pickett if he slides to 20. I have a couple of reasons behind this, but when I say that first, what are your thoughts on my thoughts?
It'd be really hard for him to pass up on him. Like they could, but it'd be very hard. And like I'm not talking with like Pitt rose-colored goggles on right now. Like I really do not care about the fact that he played at Pitt and he's a hometown kid and they got to watch him in their own backyard. Like I put no stock in that whatsoever. I just think, and I've been very adamant about this, and it feels like the NFL is kind of trending towards that same way. If you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, you got to swing for the fences. And how a lot of the league looks at Kenny Pickett is they look at him as a very safe guy who's capable of starting next year, but like really does not. It feels like he's closer to his ceiling at the moment than he is at expanding his potential. Whereas a guy like Malik Willis, if he develops, he's looking like a top 5 quarterback in the league. Obviously, there are leaps and bounds that young man needs to make in order for that to happen. But if you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, you're swinging for the fences. You want to hit that home run. Kenny Pickett is not a home run.
I agree.
He's a damn good quarterback.
Yeah.
He had a lot of success last year at Pitt. He's going to be a first-round pick, and I think he'll be every time I watch him, I just get these, like, Alex Smith vibes to where, like, he's not going to, like, lose you football games, but he's also, like, not going to be this, like, great, like, transcending quarterback like we've seen other guys come in to do, like, which isn't a bad thing either. That is not a bad guy or a bad thing to try to emulate at all. I just think if you're the Steelers and you're looking for a quarterback for the next 10 years, and if you're placing bets on somebody to, try to be that next guy, quote unquote, it's got to be somebody else other than a guy like Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and granted, Alex Smith at pick 20 is a steal because Alex Smith turned into a starting quarterback throughout his entire career. Not everybody turns into Patrick Mahomes, and you can win Super Bowls without Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you look at some of the Super Bowls who are quarterbacks who have gone to the Super Bowl, Alex Smith included, Jimmy Garoppolo included, Rex Grossman included. There are names.
Trent Dilfer. Yep.
Trent Dilfer. Quarterbacks win football games just by not losing football games. I think Kenny Pickett's a good quarterback, and I think he's a day one starter for whatever team drafts him. Just looking at how the Pittsburgh Steelers have operated over the last 2 months, it does not feel as if there's a mutual interest. Every time you talk to Kenny Pickett, it kind of seems as if he's brushing off Steelers questions, as if we're wasting our time asking those Steelers questions. That's just the vibe that you get. And then the other way around, you look at the track record of the Pittsburgh Steelers and you could say, oh, well, they're here every day. They've seen him every day at practice. Yes and no. They have seen him every day at practice, but they necessarily haven't. It's not like Mike Tomlin stands outside every single day and goes and watches Kenny Pickett throw. That doesn't happen. Right. Like, they need to do their evaluations on him as much as everybody else. And I get Mike Tomlin and Pat Narduzzi are like best friends. And a scouting report from Deuce is all Mike Tomlin might need to know. But to not bring him in for a personal visit and to just say that he talked to Matt Canada, talking to Matt Canada means nothing to me. Like, if you were like, oh, he talked to Brandon Hunt, I'd say, oh, okay, well, that's a good conversation to have. I'm glad that they had that conversation. They met with them at the NFL Combine, but again, it seemed as if they just blew it off. And it feels like there's so many other quarterbacks that they're more interested in. Let me ask this. If Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett are sitting there at 20, who do you think that the Steelers take?
I think they would take Pickett. I think they like Ridder because, one, he has the tools to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But more than anything, at least to my thought process, they like him because he's probably going to be there.
Yeah.
It's really easy to not like a player if they're not going to be there. You can say whatever you want about Kenny Pickett because Kenny Pickett probably isn't going to be there at 20, so you really don't have to worry about that scenario. But say Pickett and Ridder are there at 20. I think Pickett's the guy, and to be really honest, I don't think that conversation or that debate within the Steelers' war room would be very extensive.
Oh, see, I totally disagree with that. I think that Desmond Ridder has a higher upside, maybe not super higher, maybe not a known higher upside, but I think that he carries himself better than anybody in this entire draft. He's already impressed so many teams to the point where like people at some point were like, oh, maybe he's a top 15 pick. Like Desmond Ridder doesn't have the talent to be a top 15 pick. Kenny Pickett does. I don't think the Steelers want somebody to come in and be a day one starter. I think they want Mitchell Trubisky to be the guy this season. Mm-hmm. So Kenny Pickett kind of pushes that. And to this point right here, hometown ticket sales, the Pittsburgh Steelers by no means want the quarterback controversy that they will have. Do you know how upset people were? Mike Tomlin hated talking to the media last year, and he hates talking to the media all the time, but he hated talking to us because he knew somebody somewhere was going to ask about Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. And if anybody thinks that they're not going to be asked constantly about whether or not Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter, that's all anybody's going to care about. That's way too much pressure on a dude to come into the NFL and a plan that will work. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers could develop somebody to turn into something great, and they understand that, and they don't want that pressure. So I think if both of them are there, they look at the option to just say, okay, we want the higher upside and not Kenny Pickett, and also the grit or the lack of pressure that comes with guys like Kenny Pickett.
So like I agree with a lot of the things you just said, but I also really don't think the Steelers put stock in like what everybody else thinks. And like to go back to the comment that somebody had put in the chat about like the hometown kid translates to like ticket sales and jerseys and all that good stuff, it absolutely does. But at the end of the day, like it's not really putting that much more money into Steelers pockets. I mean, how many unofficial sellouts have the Steelers had throughout the last couple of years? I mean, like, I don't think they're stressing over ticket sales. I don't think they need to sell more tickets. I just think the older season ticket holders for the Steelers need to give up their licenses and their seats so the younger crowd can come in and actually attend those afternoon games, attend those Thursday night games, those Monday night games. A lot of the people don't normally like to go to, at least the people that have had those tickets for like 40 plus years, you know. The Steelers always say that there's like a sellout, and then you just see empty seats, not everywhere, but like you do see some empty seats. It's like, okay, well, if they belong to said family for like 30 years and they're an older, what's the probability they're going to get up early in the morning, make the trek to Pittsburgh, go tailgate the entire day, and then want to wait in traffic at 8:30, 8 o'clock, 7:30, around that area, and then drive whatever distance amount home and then go get ready for work? Probably not very high, right? I just think there's not a whole lot of stock to be put into the hometown kid and the like season ticket sales, jersey sales, wherever you put it. And also, I don't think there's a whole lot of stock in whatever quarterback controversy like would be had. The easy way to fix that is to make Mitchell Trubisky the starter from week 1 to week 17. If Trubisky is being booed, it's because he's playing bad, not because Kenny Pickett's behind him, not because Malik Willis is behind him, but because he's playing bad. And I don't think whoever is behind him would change the fact that he would be booed off of Heinz Field at halftime or at the end of the fourth quarter.
I don't think he'd be booed off, but I think all summer long and anytime Mitch made a mistake, the pressure would be so like, imagine if Kenny Pickett has a good preseason. He comes in here and he balls out in the preseason, and Mitchell Trubisky's not balling out because he's the starter and he only plays a quarter of football compared to Kenny Pickett's 3 quarters. The pressure, as soon as that week 1, I'm not saying he'd get booed, but I mean, what if he comes in week 1 and loses, and then week 2, he throws an interception on the first drive? That's not enough to give up on a quarterback by no means, but in the eyes of fans, and some fans, not all fans, but in the eyes of some people, that will be enough. And I think the pressure will just be there. So I think it will play. I think it plays more of a mental toll, and the Pittsburgh Steelers don't want that mental toll on their quarterback.
Yeah, but like just a couple weeks ago, we were laughing and applauding Mike Tomlin for saying that they don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Like they have their own business structure. They do things how they do it. They do things the quote unquote the Steelers way. Like, and I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be really honest. If I'm Mike Tomlin, or if I'm Kevin Colbert, or whoever's gonna be the general manager next year, it probably looks like Brandon Hunt or Omar Khan. I could give a flying you know what if people are booing my quarterback, because we are committed to Mitch Trubisky. We got another guy in college, first or second round pick, wherever he's drafted. That guy is going to sit. That guy is going to sit, no matter what.
But it's not Mike Tomlin. I'm not talking about Mike Tomlin. I'm talking about the mental toll on Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. You don't have two quarterbacks that could win there if they're constantly being told that they're not good enough or they should be there. And then, like, if Kenny Pickett's the backup and all he's being told all the time is how he should be there, it's boosting his confidence until he gets into the starting lineup and he's not ready yet, or the offensive line's trash again, or whatever. That's a lot of pressure. And at the same time, you're completely wasting anything you have with Mitchell Trubisky, because the pressure on Mitchell Trubisky will be insane.
But Trubisky came to Pittsburgh knowing they were probably going to draft a guy, right?
Yeah. And so have that competition. But if he's not, but he should win that competition, correct?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So if he wins that competition, you're telling me that that's it? Like everybody's just going to be like, okay, well, that's it, man. Like,
if he wins the quarterback competition, what extra pressure is going to weigh on him with a rookie quarterback behind him?
The pressure from everyone else, the preseason pressure, the fact that Kenny Pickett will have, it's not stop. It makes total sense.
So
we
what's
agreed
the difference?
multiple times that Mason Rudolph's career has been ruined because of people who have immediately given up on Mason Rudolph. You're telling me that if Mitchell Trubisky does not get it done from the second he steps on the field, or Kenny Pickett gets it done in the preseason, but he gets it done in the second half of games in the preseason, like Dwayne Haskins did last year, you're telling me that
Dwayne Haskins fumbled his one attempt.
His one attempt, but his 2 games
in the preseason.
But his 2 games before that, people were literally calling for Mason Rudolph's head to be the third string quarterback. It's all anybody wanted to talk about, because Dwayne Haskins was playing well in the fourth quarter. Kenny Pickett's going to play really well in the third and fourth quarter of games.
So the thinking behind Pickett not being in Pittsburgh is the pressure, right? Like, we know this guy can play right away, right?
I mean, that's he's part capable of it. Yes.
Okay. So what would be the difference between Pickett playing well in the preseason, sitting behind Mitch Trubisky, and Desmond Ridder playing well in the preseason, sitting behind Mitch Trubisky? Because there should not be a difference, right?
No. But
so how much does that factor into taking him? Because I don't think that should factor in it.
I don't think it's the main factor, but in the argument of the hometown hero adds pressure, I feel as if it's a legitimate argument to be made, and one the Pittsburgh Steelers will be thinking of.
I do agree that that probably does factor in it a little bit, but like at the end of the day, I don't think that should really factor in significantly to whether or not you should take a guy there. Because if you're sitting there debating a quarterback there at number 20, and you're like, oh man, we'd love to take this guy, but if we take him and he does well in the preseason, and Mitchell Trubisky is not playing like we thought he would, do we really want to put pressure on him? It's like, no.
But not playing as he wants. He could play fine in the preseason.
But he's only going to play quarter. You take the best quarterback available, or the best quarterback you think is going to be there long term for you, right? Whatever else, you worry about it later. You deal with it.
I agree, which is the other side of my argument, that I think that they view Desmond Ridder with a higher upside. I think Kenny Pickett has an immediate upside, but I think Desmond Ridder is impressing teams enough to say that he has a higher upside in the league. That being said, I think Desmond Ridder's upside is Jalen Hurts, but NFL teams don't seem to agree with me on that one, because Jalen Hurts is not a first-round quarterback. Some people believe Desmond Ridder is. I don't know. There's a lot of people arguing about Mitchell Trubisky here in the draft. Here's another question, which we're going to touch on later, but Matt Corral seems to be tossed in here quite a bit these days. And it has to be asked. If he is there at 20, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis are gone. Is it a valuable pick to take Matt Corral in the first round?
I would much rather them move back as far as possible in the first round if they're really set on taking Corral. Him at 20, especially with Ridder still being there in that hypothetical. I mean, that'd be a really tough ticket to sell. And like that's like you like it's if I'm covering the Steelers and they go Corral at 20 and I'm jumping on that conference call 5 minutes afterwards like you were going to be, I'm asking questions, bro. I'm asking a lot of questions about what happened with the Desmond Ridder hype train. I'm asking, why do you think Corral is the guy there at number 20? Have you always wanted Matt Corral? Was this something you just thought of spur of the moment because you couldn't think of anything else you wanted to do? Like, I would have a lot of questions, and I know Derek Bell.
Yeah, Derek Bell would lose his mind.
Even more than me.
Yeah, Derek Bell would lose his mind. People just think that Corral has an upside, and you have to remember that at one point Corral was considered the best quarterback in this draft. Like before the ankle injury, maybe mid-season, people were talking about Matt Corral like he's going to be the first or second pick in the draft. I don't know. I don't have an answer there because we didn't get to see Matt Corral shine in the areas where I'd like to see him shine. And you needed to see that in the combine, and you need to see that at his pro day because during his tape, Ole Miss's offense is so simple that it's hard to get a read on how developed this guy is. That being said, he does fit the framework of the Pittsburgh Steelers want a guy to just compete, but not necessarily win the starting job in year one. And I don't think that he slides to pick 2.
So why are we forgetting about Carson Strong, who just had a top 30 visit with the Steelers, by the way?
I mean, Marcus Jones had a top 30 visit with the Steelers, man. That doesn't mean that they're going to pick him in the first round. Carson Strong is not going to Pittsburgh. He's not going to Pittsburgh. People, I don't understand how the media has just made a thing of Carson Strong, like somehow being on everybody. It's like, oh, Carson Strong's visiting this team. Carson Strong's visiting this team. Carson Strong's to the Steelers. Okay, like people are doing their homework on the 4th round quarterback. Good for them. Like people are going to want to back up.
There's a lot of debates going on between quarterbacks, and I think that's a really fun part of this process. I don't think there's like one person who weighs a terrible talent Sundays that would like be heading straight to NFL.com and like trying to get like their size in the Carson Strong jersey if they took him.
No,
what that would be a universally hated pick, and I don't remember the last time the Steelers had such a universally hated pick like that.
I would love, so everybody in the chat, everybody who watches this later, whatever, I want to know if the Steelers picked Carson Strong, would you be more or less upset with them than if they picked Sam Howell? Because that seems to be the 2 names that everybody hates and nobody wants. Well, one of them might end up the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. If I had to guess, there's like almost a 0% chance Carson Strong ends up in Pittsburgh. That being said, I would like to know who you would dislike more because Carson Strong's bad, man. Bad. Not a good quarterback.